In 1968, in Vietnam, 2 Green Beret soldiers are the only survivors of a confidential mission and call for rescue. However, during the call, one of the soldiers is attacked by a mysterious predator and disappears into the forest. Desperate, the second soldier tries to flee, only to encounter a velociraptor-like creature. The soldier fires his weapon at the dinosaur, but it is useless, and he is devoured by the wild creature. The next morning, at the American military base, Colonel Jericho assembles a team for a reconnaissance mission. He needs to know what happened to the soldiers who disappeared the night before, but the mission they were involved in must remain confidential. Because of this, Jericho assembles a team of experienced but impulsive soldiers known as Team Vulture. At that moment, this squad is invading a Vietnamese base, and in a surprise attack, they begin to eliminate enemy soldiers. In a few minutes, Ryan and the others leave the base safe and rescue American soldiers who were being held prisoner. The mission is a success, and they return to base, but discover that they will have little time to rest. Colonel Jericho calls them in to explain the new reconnaissance mission, where they must go to a valley in Vietnam and find the missing Green Berets. However, the colonel cannot give them any more information about what they were doing in that valley, as this matter is completely classified. Despite this, Sergeant Ryan accepts the mission and orders his men to prepare their weapons and equipment to enter enemy territory. When night falls, Team Vulture leaves by helicopter for the valley, and after landing, they begin reconnaissance of the area. In the dense forest, Ryan finds a strange footprint, similar to that of a bird, but of a size never seen before. Along with this, they find a huge bird feather, but Logan says he does not recognize it from any other bird. The team continues their search and finds the equipment of one of the Green Berets, containing ammunition and notes about a research station 4. Believing that the missing soldiers were heading there, Ryan orders his team to follow the tracks and find the station. As they enter the forest, the group hears the sound of wild animals everywhere and keeps their weapons at the ready. However, one of these sounds seems louder than the others, and suddenly, Sergeant Ryan is attacked and begins to be pulled by the foot. In the darkness of the forest, Ryan cannot see the creature and fires his weapon everywhere until he manages to break free from the predator. Seconds later, the team finds the sergeant, who is unharmed, but he believes he was attacked by an animal larger than a tiger. After recovering from this attack, he orders the team to continue their journey, as he intends to reach the research station before dawn. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, a Soviet squad known as the Dogs of War is also exploring the area. The team is looking for American soldiers, but Alexander ends up getting separated from the team and is attacked by a raptor. Minutes later, the Soviet group finds his body, which has had its head and body destroyed, and believes he was eliminated by American soldiers. They then continue their hunt, while Team Vulture advances into the forest and finds a tunnel. The group members think it best to return to base and avoid further casualties, but Sergeant Ryan is determined to complete the mission. The group then enters the dark tunnel and comes across more bodies of soldiers, attacked by something monstrous. The marks on their bodies do not appear to be from ordinary predators, and suddenly, Sergeant Xavier hears footsteps and orders the group to check the area. With their flashlights, the soldiers illuminate the cave and find a flock of Deinonychus, small raptors covered in feathers. Without thinking twice, the team unloads their weapons on the creatures, which, even when hit, continue to come in large numbers. Sergeant Ryan and Leon go ahead in search of the exit, and the rest of the group continues to eliminate the animals with gunfire and grenades. Finally, the sergeant finds an exit, and together with Leon, they escape by climbing vines and reach an elevated part of the forest. At that moment, Sergeant Xavier and the rest of the group manage to get out of the cave and return to the forest. The place is completely silent, and the soldiers believe that the raptors have left. However, the group faces an even greater threat when huge Tyrannosaurus Rex paws begin to walk through the forest. Xavier orders everyone to remain silent, and luckily, they manage to go unnoticed by the huge predator. Back to Ryan and Leon, they continue searching for the station and find a Tyrannosaurus nest. The female is sleeping, but her babies notice the soldiers' presence and begin to make noises, waking the enormous creature. The two soldiers then run for their lives, and Leon manages to scare the creature away with shots from his gun. They believe they are out of danger, but the male Tyrannosaurus appears behind them and lets out a powerful roar. Day breaks and Team Vulture manages to lose the dinosaurs and reach a waterfall. Sniper Keys thinks it best to call for rescue, but Xavier warns that Ryan has the radio. Now, the group needs to find the sergeant so they can escape from that place before more dinosaurs appear. They need to be quick, because at that very moment, Leon and the sergeant are running through the forest, with the T-Rex right on their tail. Luckily, they manage to hide behind a fallen tree trunk, and at the first opportunity, they escape from the enormous predator. However, the T-Rex continues to follow them, and the two end up at the edge of a hill, with a river just ahead. With no other choice, they both jump into the water, but the T-Rex does the same and tries to catch up with them in the water. Due to the impact, Leon is knocked unconscious, and Ryan is forced to carry him to shore. Fortunately, a young paleontologist named Sophia Wagner appears in the forest and helps them out of the river. She says she is part of the Soviet group and takes the two American soldiers to their refuge. Meanwhile, Xavier and the rest of the Vulture team continue to survive in the forest and continue their search for Station 4. They finally find a safe path, as it is full of herbivorous dinosaurs, such as Triceratops and enormous brachiosaurs. Elsewhere in the forest, Sophia takes Ryan and Leon to Station 4, but the place is uninhabited. The paleontologist reveals that she was left alone after the experiments of General Borodin, the station chief, went wrong. Ryan is not satisfied with the explanations and demands to know more about these experiments. Sophia then reveals that Borodin was working on a type of collider, which accidentally brought back several extinct species of dinosaurs. Upon learning this, the sergeant orders Leon to contact the base via radio. Minutes later, Colonel Jericho answers the call and the sergeant explains the situation. The colonel then orders him to return to base, but Ryan does not intend to leave his team behind and demands that he send reinforcements immediately. Meanwhile, Xavier and the rest of Team Vulture continue through the forest when suddenly Keyes is shot in the leg. The group hides in the woods and hears more gunfire in the distance, coming from the Soviet war dogs. A firefight ensues, but due to the dense forest, neither group can see their targets. To make matters worse, a flock of pterodactyls is attracted by the sounds of gunfire and begins to fly over the area in search of food. Xavier orders the group to cease fire so as not to attract the creatures, but the war dogs continue to shoot at the pterodactyls. Thanks to this, Team Vulture takes the chance to escape, while the flying dinosaurs begin to surround the Soviet soldiers. As soon as they land in the woods, the huge creatures attack the war dogs and devour their prey with their sharp beaks. Sergei, Nikita, and Khan Nen manage to escape narrowly and hide in the middle of the forest, evading the pterodactyls. Team Vulture does the same and carries Keyes, who is seriously injured and can barely walk. Minutes later, the group reunites with Ryan and Leon, who heard the sounds of gunfire and went to help their team. In addition to them, Sophia also appears in the forest, and the soldiers are suspicious when they find a Soviet woman in that region. However, Ryan says that she knows about the dinosaurs and is the only one who can help them get out of the forest. But it doesn't take long for more creatures to appear, and the group finds itself surrounded by a pack of Deinonychus. Team Vulture gathers in a circle and starts shooting at the small predators, but despite being easy targets, the creatures are numerous and continue to attack. In a moment of carelessness, Keyes is pulled by the legs by two Deinonychus, who take him into the forest. With great effort, the Marine manages to break free and faces the creatures with his machete, but ends up dropping the weapon on the ground. With his leg still injured, he pulls out another knife and is attacked by one of the Deinonychus, but finishes it off by slashing its neck. After that, the soldier challenges the rest of the dinosaurs to a second round, but suddenly the pack retreats and leaves. When everything seems calm, Keyes is attacked from behind by a raptor. The creature begins to destroy his body, but in a last effort, the Marine grabs his machete and stabs the creature in the eye. Hearing the raptor's screams, Team Vulture locates it and fires their weapons at it. However, the monster manages to escape, and the group finds Keyes lying on the ground, seriously injured. Ryan then orders everyone to bandage the soldier and take him to Station 4 as quickly as possible. Hours later, they arrive at the location and Keyes is losing a lot of blood, so the sergeant orders the team to give him the medication and stop the bleeding. However, when it is time for the second dose, Sophia takes the syringe and sneaks away. Realizing what she has done, Ryan confronts the scientist, but she justifies herself, saying that she also needs to use the medication constantly after everything that happened at the base. The sergeant then demands to know the whole truth, and Sophia reveals that her husband was one of the Soviet Army's scientists. The two were summoned by General Borodin to work on a collider that would open portals capable of invading even places like the White House. If the experiment had been successful, the Soviet Union could have won the war in a matter of minutes. However, Borodin decided to cut costs and the collider ended up opening a portal to the past, bringing dinosaurs to the present day. Tragically, Sophia's husband was eliminated by the predators, along with the rest of the team. Sophia was the only survivor, and after this failure, Borodin left the base behind and went to build a new collider to continue with his plan. Now that he knows the whole truth, Ryan plans to go after the second collider, but first, he must take Keyes back to the base. However, the station begins to be surrounded by more raptors, and the Vulture team positions itself between the windows to shoot the creatures. For a brief moment, the raptors stop attacking, but the leader of the pack reappears and uses his strength to break through the door. Quickly, the team shoots at the creature and flees toward the main room, locking all the doors. However, another raptor appears on the roof and uses all its strength to try to break through the glass ceiling. The group is running out of time, but Sophia says there is an exit through the ventilation duct and they can head towards the pier. There, a boat is waiting for them, but Sophia says the vessel needs repairs before they can set sail. Ryan then orders the group to prepare the equipment and carry keys out of the station. However, the Marine orders them to leave him in the corner of the room, along with a couple of grenades. Seeing what his companion intends to do, Logan tells him to come along, but Keyes knows he will only slow the group down and tells everyone to save themselves. The dinosaurs continue to force the door, and it is only a matter of time before they break through. Logan then says goodbye to Keyes and flees with the group through the ventilation shaft. Finally, the raptors break through the door, and Keyes, in an act of sacrifice, sets off the grenades and explodes along with the dinosaurs. His friends watch the explosion from afar, but there is no time to waste, and they rush to repair the boat and leave that place. The next morning, Xavier realizes that Ryan is not returning to base, but heading in the opposite direction. The sergeant then summons the entire team and tells them they must continue with the mission to find Baradin and the second collider he has built. With this machine, General Baradin could not only defeat the American army, but cause the destruction of the entire world. The sergeant's plan is to detonate the collider, but Sophia is against the idea, as an explosion could cause even more catastrophic effects. Instead, she asks Ryan to take her to the station, as she knows how to deactivate the machine. The sergeant agrees and the group heads out to sea, but Sophia once again tries to grab one of the syringes of medication. Leon tries to stop her, but the two end up throwing the medicine into the water, just as a huge Spinosaurus emerges to attack them. Fortunately, the creatures soon give up and head for the coast, where they begin to devour the Triceratops they find. Despite this, Ryan becomes enraged and tells Sophia to control herself before she risks the life of another soldier because of her insanity. The scientist agrees and the group continues by boat toward the Soviet military base. Finally, they reach the coast and find a forest covered in fog. As they advance, bodies of soldiers and Vietnamese natives appear everywhere, certainly all eliminated by the dinosaurs. The team presses on, but once again, they are attacked by a pack of Deinonychus. In the midst of combat, Logan follows Key's example and sacrifices himself to lure the creatures away and save his group. He reaches a stream and uses the rest of his ammunition to eliminate as many dinosaurs as possible. However, when his pistol is almost out of bullets, Logan ends it all and leaves his body to serve as food for the predators. Seconds later, Ryan arrives on the scene, but it is too late, and the raptors have completely devoured Logan's body. The group then moves on and finds the Soviet base, led by General Baradin. Ryan again calls Colonel Jericho on the radio, and upon learning everything that has happened, he orders the sergeant and his team to stay where they are. However, Ryan once again disobeys his orders and says he will destroy the collider before something worse happens. Jericho is not at all happy with the Vulture's rebellion, but decides to help them and assembles a team of reinforcements. Back in the forest, Ryan explains the plan to the team. He and Sophia will search for the collider, while the rest spread out to provide cover and place explosives around the base. With everything explained, Team Vulture sets out to invade the complex, which is completely surrounded by the Soviet army. In addition to them, the survivors of the Dogs of War, Nikita, Sergei, and Kon-Nen, managed to reach the base and meet with General Baradin. Apparently, he and Kon-Nen had made a deal, as the Vietnamese soldier wants revenge against the US Army. Still, the Dogs of War do not trust the general, as he destroyed Vietnam with his machine, and could do the same to other nations. The conversation continues and the Vultures invade the Soviet complex, stealthily eliminating the enemy soldiers they encounter. Finally, Sophia takes Ryan to the location of the collider and they see General Baradin in the distance. The two then look for a way to break into the lab without being seen, while Charlie and Eli position the explosives. Shortly after, Ryan and Sophia set off in search of an entrance to the lab, when they come across Nikita and Sergei. Despite being adversaries, the two Soviet soldiers realize that Baradin's plan is to use the collider and risk the safety of their own nation. Because of this, they agree to help Team Vulture disable the collider and eliminate the Soviet general. However, more problems arise when one of the soldiers calls General Baradin and shows him a baby dinosaur found at the base. Upon seeing the lifeless animal, Baradin quickly realizes that it is a baby Tyrannosaurus and that it won't be long before its parents come looking for it. As he feared, the female Tyrannosaurus appears in front of the complex, and upon seeing the body of her baby, the creature advances toward the soldiers. The Soviet army fires at the monster, but it resists and begins to devour everyone in a rage. Soon after, the male of the species also appears, and together the pair of tyrannosaurs launch a powerful attack to avenge their young. With the enemy army occupied, the Vulture team manages to slip by unnoticed and they see Baradin hiding in the collider room. Although the path is blocked by the tyrannosaurs, the group sets off anyway and manages to get past the creatures. Finally, they find the collider, and Sophia rushes to the computers to deactivate the machine. Outside, Charlie finishes placing the bombs, but is struck with a blade by Con Nen. She wants revenge for what they did to her people, and amid the Vietnamese woman's attacks and with the tyrannosaurs approaching, Charlie detonates the bombs, being hit by the explosion and taking Con Nen with him. Back in the lab, the situation becomes even more critical as the collider's auto-activation mechanism has been turned on. Sophia says she will need a few minutes to deactivate it, and at that moment, General Baradin appears and tries to make a deal. However, Ryan shoots him in the leg in revenge for his companions. Sophia then prepares to eliminate the man who took her husband's life, but she gives up and goes back to deactivate the machine. The scientist cuts one of the power cables, turning off the collider and all the lights in the lab. Because of this, Baradin manages to escape, and outside, the group hears the sound of more raptors approaching. This time, there are even more of them, and there isn't enough ammunition to take them all on. Ryan then orders the soldiers to throw smoke grenades to delay the monsters, while the group spreads bombs throughout the site. After that, the group flees through the back exit, but the creatures manage to catch up with Nikita and devour him completely. The survivors continue their escape from the lab, while Baradin reappears in the room and tries to activate the collider once again. Before he can, another raptor sees the madman and eliminates him, devouring his head. Minutes later, Team Vulture follows Sophia, who shows them an exit from the complex through a tunnel. The pack of raptors is hot on their trail and ends up capturing Eli, who has half his body devoured by the monsters. With this latest loss, Ryan vows not to let any more of his men be eliminated and orders the team to move on. After that, he lures some of the raptors into the tunnel, while Leon, Sophia, and Xavier take another route. Upon leaving the laboratory, the trio finds an American helicopter carrying Colonel Jericho and his reinforcements. The trio then joins forces with the colonel and begins shooting at the raptors, with dozens of them advancing toward them. At the same time, Ryan continues to lure the rest of the creatures until he is knocked down by one of the raptors, which prepares to devour him. Unfortunately for the creatures, the sergeant just smiles and accepts his fate, triggering the explosives and blowing up the entire place. Seeing the fire spread through the complex, the survivors of Team Vulture and Jericho flee by helicopter. On the way, Colonel Jericho receives a radio call saying that the American base is being attacked by huge dinosaurs. This seems to be the end, but when they arrive at the site, the group encounters brachiosaurs crossing the region without attacking the soldiers. It seems that the military base is safe, but the dinosaurs have begun a migration process. Soon, all of Vietnam will be infested with these prehistoric creatures, and soon, dinosaurs will rule the world once again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.